Hello and welcome back to the studio for episode 71 of the Education Pulse. I am your host, Socheta, and today we are diving into a topic that sits at the very heart of our communities, yet often stirs up a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. We are talking about school safety policies and how they truly impact the learning environment.
It is a pleasure to be here, Socheta. It is such a heavy, multi-layered topic. As an educator for over 20 years, I have seen the pendulum swing from open, community-centered campuses to what some now describe as fortified learning centers. It is a transition that weighs on the hearts of every teacher and administrator I know.
It really does. I was looking at some recent data before we went on air, and the sheer number of schools implementing metal detectors and armed guards is staggering. Mr. Saroon, when you walk into a school that feels like a fortress, how does that shift the energy of the classroom before a single word of a lesson is even spoken?
You can feel it the moment you cross the threshold. There is a palpable tension. When a student has to pass through a metal detector or hand over their bag for inspection every morning, it sends a subconscious message that the world is a dangerous place, and perhaps more damagingly, that they themselves are potential suspects rather than scholars.
That is exactly what worries me, that suspect mentality. We want our children to feel protected, of course, but at what cost to their sense of belonging? I remember talking to a high school junior recently who said she feels like she's going to work in a high-security prison every day. That just broke my heart.
It is a heartbreak many of us share. Security measures are often reactive. They are designed to stop a tragedy. But a learning environment needs to be proactive. It needs to foster curiosity and risk-taking. It is very hard to take intellectual risks or be vulnerable in a creative writing class when you are hyper-aware of the locked doors and the surveillance cameras following your every move.
Exactly. Education is about opening minds, not locking them down. But then we have the other side of the coin. Parents are terrified. They want to know their child will come home at 3 p.m. How do we bridge that gap between the need for physical security and the need for psychological safety?
That is the golden question, Socheta. I believe the answer lies in soft security. We focus so much on the hardware, the locks, the glass, the cameras, but we neglect the hardware. The strongest security measure in any school isn't a badge. It is a relationship. It is a student feeling like they can go to a teacher because they are struggling, long before that struggle turns into a crisis.
I love that term, hardware. It suggests that safety is something we build together through trust, rather than something we impose. But how do we implement that at a policy level when budgets are often squeezed and hardening schools is often the easier thing to sell to a school board?
It requires a paradigm shift. We have to view mental health resources, counselors, and social-emotional learning as safety expenses. If we spend $100,000 on a new fence but don't have enough counselors to identify a lonely or bullied child, we haven't actually made the school safer. We've just made it harder to get into.
That is a powerful point. I'm thinking about the impact on teachers, too. Mr. Saroon, you've been in the trenches. When you have to conduct active shooter drills, how does that affect your ability to teach for the rest of the day? How do you return to algebra or history after that?
To be honest, it is exhausting. You see the fear in the students' eyes. You see them huddling in corners. As a teacher, your protective instincts go into overdrive. It takes a long time for the adrenaline to fade. Sometimes the rest of the day is a wash because the emotional toll is just too high. We are asking teachers to be first responders, and that is a heavy mantle to carry while trying to inspire a love for literature.
I can only imagine the burden. And yet, we see schools that are getting it right. Schools where the safety policies include things like peer mediation groups and daily check-ins. Have you seen any specific programs that give you hope?
Oh, absolutely. There are schools implementing restorative justice practices. Instead of an immediate zero-tolerance suspension for a student acting out, they bring the students together to talk. It builds empathy. When students feel seen and heard, the desire to cause harm to themselves or others drops significantly. That is the kind of policy that changes the atmosphere from one of fear to one of community.
That sounds like a world I want our children to grow up in. A school where safety is a byproduct of a healthy culture, not just a list of rules. It seems like we need to move away from the policing model and back toward the mentoring model.
Precisely. We cannot gatekeep our way to a better future. We have to invest in the people inside the buildings. We need to make sure every student has at least one adult they trust. That is the ultimate safety net.
Mr. Saroon, as we wrap up this episode, what is one piece of advice you would give to a parent who is worried about the balance of safety and environment in their child's school?
I would say go to the meetings. Ask your school board not just how many locks do we have, but how many minutes of counseling does the average student get. Advocate for the emotional infrastructure, because a child who feels safe in their heart will always learn better than a child who is only safe behind a locked door.
That is such a beautiful note to end on. Thank you, Mr. Saroon, for your wisdom and your heart today. This conversation has given me so much to reflect on, and I hope it has done the same for our listeners.
It was an honor, Socheta. Thank you for shining a light on this.
And thank you to everyone at home or in your cars for joining us. This has been episode 71 of the Education Pulse. Remember, let's keep the conversation going, and let's keep our schools places of both safety and wonder. Until next time.